contraception and birth control in China and history of birth control. In 1817, due to the Comstock Act, it was illegal to send obscene contraception and all information about it. In 1916 and 1917, Margaret Sanger planning clinic in Brooklyn, and she is also arrested for distribution of information on contraception. Doctors to administer contraception to married women to prevent the transmission of disease. In 1920, Margaret Sanger also founded what later becomes Planned Parenthood Federation of America, legal birth control clinic that used contraceptives for medical purposes. The federal ban that targeted birth control was lifted by federal judge August Hand. In the 1960s, the federal announces the approval of the first birth control pill. In Griswold versus Connecticut, married people became allowed to receive birth control because it violated the right to marital privacy. In 1976, intrauterine device, also known as an IUD. In 1992, the FDA birth control shot called Depo-Provera. FDA approves the first emergency contraceptive pill known as Plan B. In 2000, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission states that employers who don't provide insurance coverage for prescription considered to be acting unlawfully and discriminating against women if they cover other preventative treatments. And now, in 2010, the Affordable Care Act requires new health plans to cover preventative services for women with no. The methods and forms of current birth control are essentially the same methods and forms in the 70s. Although there is possibly a new need for women, because according to a study from an Institute of Medicine, there were almost 3 million pregnancies of failed contraception. Half of the 1.5 million abortions were performed contraception. The birth control pill is also in young women in a way that it has never been before, stating that it will have other health benefits other than simply control. A treatment for acne, premenstrual dysmorphic order, and for ways that birth control pills are being marketed to women. Birth control medicine that meets the healthcare needs of the population, so it is often considered to be a basic healthy for women who have reached a reproductive age. However, there have not been many innovations regarding the improvement of the pill. Americans support including birth control as a preventer. Birth control use is pretty much universal. Around 99% of experienced women have used it in their lives, of Catholic women have used it in their lives. Voters support birth control coverage benefit. 65% of millennials believe that they cover contraception at no cost. Access to birth control improves the health of women, and birth control has had a profound and positive impact on women's lives. However, women do struggle with the cost of birth control. It's not just a health issue. There was a survey performed in 2010 that found that more than a third of female voters have struggled to afford prescription at some point in their lives, and as a result have been using the pill inconsistently, which can any expansion of the refusal provision could deny millions of women access. And finally, failing to provide coverage is considered sex discrimination. The history of birth control in China. Per family law that was implemented in order to control the rapidly growing population through the use of contraception. In the 80s, the family planning policy came up in reform policies. In 1980, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China a letter that called for them and the Communist Youth League to have only one child to improve the quality of life. In 1981, the State Family Planning Commission was established. The role of it was the enforcement of the family planning policy that has been put into place. In 1982, the central government revised the Constitution in order to impose the idea that it was mandatory for couples to practice family planning, way the freedom for couples to make decisions for themselves. At the time, the central government monitored and conduction among married women every 4 to 5 years. And policy in China has been enforced legally and systematically, but primarily for married people, men. In 1994, there was a reformed contraceptive policy that was put into action with married women. It worked hand in hand with the recommendations of the International Conference on Population and Development, the nations. People can decide, people should be able to decide if and when and they want to have children. People should be able to have the right to have access to safe, effective, affordable, and acceptable methods of family planning. The main point of the new policy that has been put into place is for married women to choose which method of contraceptive that they would like to participate in, meaning that the government in China has began to take women's rights regarding contraception into more consideration. When people decided what they wanted to, their decisions were strongly influenced by the government. The government didn't intervene and tell them what they should or should not be doing. However, traditionally, their decisions were influenced. China has also began launching reproductive health projects because it has been shown that choice programs available to the people are able to have more freedom when deciding what contraceptive method best fit for them, which allows for more people to break away from tradition and to practice what they would and what will be best for them. Women that were married typically preferred old pattern of birth control, meaning that they are more likely to use the traditional and long-term methods of contraception, such as IUDs. Women who have had more children are also more likely to choose old contraceptive methods, which are, again, long-term methods such as sterilization and IUDs, and will use short-term and over-the-counter methods, such as the birth control pill or shots or even condoms. Birth control in Brazil. There has not been many studies. However, the most recent study that I found was very in-depth about what is going on in Brazil. Then there has been a lot of progress over the years as far as contraception in Brazil. Women's reproductive health still remains a major issue. Some of the key problems are that there is a severely limited choice of available contraceptive products and information. There are high rates of service, the large numbers of women that have virtually no prenatal care, the world's largest, also known as C-section, and the growing threat to men and women being protected from STDs. Continue to use methods of birth control that they are given, even though they may not be satisfied with it, because of economic and an increasing amount of women that are entering the workforce. The government, however, so they do not regulate or control the growth of the population. Decisions regarding family planning, no public or private institutions are allowed to attempt to sway the decisions in any way. It is an invasion of the couple's privacy to attempt to persuade them. Local production of is something that the government of Brazil is pushing for. They are looking for new ways for people to have access to birth control that people will have access to, as well as getting the information out there. There is no national plan of birth control. However, there still is some research being conducted. Mostly no conception methods, such as the pill. Although the Catholic Church has no official connection to the government, it still has had some influence on the decisions that are made on family. But it is not an open opposition to the ideas of the birth control methods that are available. Mostly all contraceptive methods are sold through commercial institutions. of those are sold over the counter without a prescription, including but not limited to and monthly injections such as Depo-Provera. Condoms are mostly, however, both men and women are able to purchase them from pharmacies. Like said, birth control is still mainly directed at women, even in Brazil. Options that are available for men, there is sterilization. However, it's popular because it's typically done by a doctor through a referral, and the referral to get a part of the standard family planning services. There is a high prevalence rate use of contraceptives throughout Brazil. Although there is variation across status and region. Along with that, the amount of children that women have been having has decreased to around 2.5 children per woman. The information that has been given out about birth control and the informed decisions that people are being allowed to make throughout Brazil. Birth control. The two most dominant forms of birth control are sterilization and oral contraceptives. Sterilization would be a vasectomy for men, and women getting what is called their tubes tied. When comparing the two countries, in China, there is a limit to the amount of children that a couple is allowed to have, whereas in Brazil, there's population control present in their society. This can have an effect on women because it changes what is available to them, and it can also affect their health. In China, because the government is not catering to each, they are mainly focusing on the size of their population. There is little to no freedom for people to discover methods of birth control that they wish to use, and even now that there is more freedom to do whatever they want, are more likely to use the former methods of birth control because they do not have the information available to them to make more informed decisions. However, in Brazil, the government attempts to educate the public about the options that are available for contraception. They are able to make informed decisions on the method of birth control that they see best fit for them, and the most prevalent form is oral contraceptives. When those in China received adequate information regarding the more short-term methods of birth, like oral contraceptives, they were also more likely to choose that option because they did see the health benefits of when they received proper information on it. There should be less government intervention with population control, primarily to increase the size of the population, but to pay more attention to the women's needs. The public and private institutions should provide good information to people so that they can make more informed decisions on birth control that they would like to use and the types of birth control that they best see fit for themselves. There should be lot in order to create more methods of birth control for men and women, and to find and for there to be more options for women to choose from, so there isn't just a handful of things that women can choose from, types of women. And there's a strong basis in family planning, which is the purpose of birth control. However, it should also be geared towards helping women and looking at their health concerns.